on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 9th of December 2025. Second round, northeast monsoon settles over Sri Lanka. Evacuation orders issued for 2,000 families in 4 high-risk landslide zones. Attention to detail. Minister Kanta urges NBRO to pinpoint exact risk zones for evacuation in Kandy following landslide warnings. No room for error. President Anuradha Dissanayake visits Badulla post-cyclone. Demands fair and rapid relief distribution. Back to school. Schools in 6 provinces reopen on December 16th. A-level examination rescheduled from January 12th to 20th.
Kalin baby soap රුපියල් 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9, brought to you by Derana News Channel, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatya Arnaik, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. Now, the Department of Meteorology warns that heavy rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters may occur in the northern, north central, eastern, central and over provinces due to the onset of the northeast monsoon. Highlighting the potential risk to life and property, the Disaster Management Centre has instructed district secretaries to direct residents of 40 divisional secretariat divisions in the Kandy, Kegol, Kurunegala and Matale districts to safe locations for a period of 10 days starting today. Following the exit of devastating cyclone Ditwa from Sri Lanka, the northeast monsoon has now established itself over the island, bringing continuous rainfall to the areas previously affected by the cyclone. Accordingly, the Department of Meteorology has issued a warning for heavy rain for the next 24 hours. The department forecasts that showers or thunder showers exceeding 100 millimeters may occur at times in the northern, north central, eastern, central and over provinces. The department further noted that showers may also occur in other parts of the island after 1 p.m. In this context, the Disaster Management Centre issued evacuation warnings last night. In accordance with the red notices issued by the National Building Research Organisation, the respective district secretaries and other authorities have been informed to take steps to direct residents of 40 divisional secretariat divisions in the Kandy, Kegol, Kurunegala and Matale districts to safer locations. The divisions under red notices are Hatarali Addara, Yatinuwara, Ududumbara, Patahewahata, Madadumbara, Pasbage Korale, Deltota, Pujapitiya, Gangahila Korale, Panwila, Gangawata Korale, Udapalata, Harispattua, Kundasale, Minipe, Doluwa, Tumpane, Akurana, Udunuwara and Patadumbara in Kandy, Kegol, Galigamua, Mavanala, Bulatko-Pitiya, Aranayaka, Yatiantota, Rambukana and Warakapula in Kegol, Mavatagama, Mallavpitiya and Ridigama in Kurunegala, and Naula, Vilgamua, Pallepola, Abanganga Korale, Laggala, Pallegama, Ukuvala, Rattota, Matale and Yatawata in the Matale district. The Disaster Management Centre advises residents of these areas to remain in safety centres from today until the 19th of December.
The behaviour of the soil may change following the recent rains as it still retains moisture from the previous rainfall. Therefore, we request that safety measures be taken accordingly. Otherwise, lives could be at risk.
Meanwhile, the Irrigation Department says many major reservoirs across the island are currently releasing excess water.
Currently, over 25 reservoirs are releasing excess water. Specifically, Daduruoya, Rajangane and Nachuduwa have reached capacity. Additionally, the sluice gates of Lunugambehera and Veheragala reservoirs have been opened to reduce water levels considering the rainfall expected in the coming days. This water is being released carefully to minimize inconvenience to people living in low-lying areas near these reservoirs.
Reconstruction work has already begun in areas damaged by Cyclone Ditwa.
First, we must prioritize saving lives and preventing sudden disasters. Temporary solutions can be implemented over the next 6 months. However, in some cases, temporary solutions are ineffective. We need to identify and implement permanent solutions for such situations. Residents of Kotmale and Hanguranketa have requested relocation. For them, we must provide permanent solutions.
1,827,771 people from 529,741 families have been affected by landslides and floods. Among them, 86,040 individuals are housed in safety centres. The Disaster Management Centre reports that the death toll from the disaster has risen to 639, while 203 people remain missing.
දවටනේ නියම මිල සඳහන් ස්විස්ටෙක් නිෂ්පාදන මිලදී ගන්න. ස්විස්ටෙක් ගන්න ඕන හොඳම තීරණය.
President Anura Disanayake urges officials to ensure fairness and consistency in delivering assistance and compensation to those affected by the devastating cyclone Ditwa. Speaking at the Badula District Coordination Committee meeting, the President reiterated that the government's priority is to safeguard the well-being and security of every citizen.
President Anura Disanayake chaired the Badula District Coordination Committee meeting last evening to discuss the measures required to uplift livelihoods in the disaster-struck area.
ගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමනි බදුල්ල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ රේන්දපොළ අඹේවිල මාර්ගය ඒ ස්ථානයට අපි ඇත්තටම ඊයේ තමයි ළඟා වුණේ බස් අයින් කරගෙන එතෙන්දී අපි අඳුනගත්තා දෙවෙනි කිලෝමීටරේ සහ පස්වෙනි කිලෝමීටරේ මාර්ගය ගිලා බැසීම් දෙකකට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සඳහා අපි අද NBR එකට යොමු කරා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ උපදෙස් අරගෙන තමයි ඒ සඳහා අපිට ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න වෙන්නේ.
බදුල්ල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ පළාත් මාර්ග පාරවල් දෙකක් තියෙනවා දැනට තීරණයක් කරගන්න අමාරුම තැන්වල ආගරතැන්න වැල්ගොල්ල කියලා පාරක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ කොටසක් කඩාගෙන ගිහිලා තියෙනවා. දැනට ඒකේ ගලක් පෑදිලා තියෙනවා. එතනට අපි විසඳුමක් ස්ථිරයක් හොයාගන්න ඕන. ඊට අමතරව ස්පින් වැලි මේමලේ කියන පාරේ පරණ පාලමක් තිබිච්ච ආච් බ්‍රිජ් එකක් එතන මීටර 100ක විතර කොටක් එක පාර අයින් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
ස්ථාවර විසඳුමක් හොයා ගැනීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන පාරවල් ටිකක් නම් කරලා ඉක්මනින්ම ඇස්තමේන්තු කරන්න. ඔය ජනවාරි වල අපි වැඩ පටන් ගන්න ඕන මේ වගේ නේ. අපිට ලේසි වෙන්නේ මුදල් ප්‍රමාණය පිළිබඳ දල අදහසක් ආවොත් තමයි 26ම මේ ඔක්කොම කරනවද නැත්නම් සමහර ප්‍රමාණයක් 27ක් දානවද කියලා තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ ඇස්තමේන්තු ප්‍රමාණය අනුව. ඒ නිසා පාරවල සමස්ත ඇස්තමේන්තු යවන්නකෝ. CB
අද හවස් වෙනකොට ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් වැලිමඩ. බදුල්ල ඒරියා එකේ අපිට තව දවස් 3ක් ඕන 100%ක් විදුලිය ලබා දෙන්න. නමුත් ඇක්සස් එක පාර දුන්නම අපිට දවස් දෙකෙන් ඒ ගමට වත්තේ කැලේ කියන ගමට
කොයි පාරද ඒක?
වත්තේ කැලේ.
හයි කණු වත්තේ කැලේ පාර අපි දවස් 3කට යන කලින් සුද්ධ කරලා දෙන්න.
කළුගහකන්ද රෝබේරිය දක්වා පාර හැදිලා තියෙනවා.
අපිට අර ඒකෙත් 33000 ලයින් එක කඩා වැටිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ටික තමයි අපිට දෙන ගැටලුව.
ඒකේ වෙලා තියෙන විනාශය බරපතලයි. 33000 කණු පවා 3ට 4ට කැඩලා බිම තියෙනවා.
ඇත්තටම සර් දැනටත් අපි తాවකාලික විසඳුම් තමයි දෙන්නේ මේ පර්මනන්ට් විසඳුම් දැන්ට දෙන්න අමාරුයි සමහර තැන් වලට.
නෑ ගෙදර ගිහලා බල්බ් එක දාගන්න හදලා දෙන්නකෝ ඉස්සෙල්ලා.
ඔව් අත්සගම.
බදුල්ල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ පාසල් ඔක්කොම 601ක් තියෙනවා. පාසල් 26ක් විවෘත කරන්න බැරි මට්ටමක තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ සර් මේවා අපි NBRO වාර්තාව අරගෙන තමයි මේ 26 ගැන තීරණයක් ගන්න වෙන්නේ.
දැනට ඉන්නවා අවතන් කඳුරුල කණ්ඩායම් දෙකක්. එකක් ඉන්නවා නිවස අහිමි වීම නිසා ඉන්නවා. තව කණ්ඩායමක් ඉන්නවා නිවස හිමි. නමුත් යන්නේක සුදුසු නැද්ද කියලා. ඒකට රිපෝට් එක ආපුවම තමයි ඒගොල්ලන්ට යන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙන්නේ නේද?
මේ වෙනකොට පූර්ණ හානි වෙලා නැහැ නිවස. නමුත් NBRO කියනවා අධි අවදානම් ඉවත් විය යුතුයි කියන්නේ. මිනිස්සු කියන්නේ අපිටත් අර ගාන ඕනි
යන්න ඕන කියලා. අපි අර ලක්ෂ 50 තීරණය කරන්නේ නිවසක් ඉතුරු වුණාමයි නිවසක් මුළුමනින්ම විනාශ වුණාමයි හානි වීමේ ප්‍රමාණය වෙනස්. ඉතුරු නම් සමහර භාණ්ඩ අරම ඉතුරු වෙනවා. හැබැයි මුළුමනින්ම හානි වුණා. ඒ සියල්ල නැතුව යනවා. එතකොට තමයි අපි ලක්ෂ 50 දෙන්නේ. එතකොට තවත් කණ්ඩායමක් අපිට ඉන්නවා. gedara හානි වෙලා නැහැ. නමුත් ඒගොල්ලන්ටත් ඒ ප්‍රදේශ වලට යන්න බැරි. ඒතර ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපි වෙනම පැකේජ් එකක් හදන්න ඕනේ දත්ත ප්‍රමාණය බලලා. මොකද්ද ඒගොල්ලන්ට දෙන විසඳුම කියලා. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ට දැනට අවතන් කඳවුරේ ඉන්නත් බැරි නම් ඊට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට නිවසකට යන්න නිවසකුත් නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපි රුපියල් 25000ක මාසික කුලියක් දෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට ගිහලා ගෙවල් කුලියක් අරන් ඉන්න. ඒ මාසික කුලියට දෙන අයට අපි ජනවාරි පෙබරවාරි වලට 50000 ගානේ මාසික දීමනාවක් දෙනවා. පුළුවන් තරම් අපි රජයේ ඉඩමකට මේගොල්ලෝ පදිංචි කරමු. රජයේ ඉඩම් නැත්නම් අපි කිව්වා ලක්ෂ 50 දක්වා උපරිමයකට. 50ම නෙවෙයි. ප්‍රදේශ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් තියෙනවනේ මාකට් වැලියු එකක් තියෙනව නේද? ඒ වටිනාකමට අනුව අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඉඩමක් මිලදී ගන්න මුදලක් ලබා දෙමු. මේ තරින් අපි කිසිසේත්ම ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ගේ පොඩි මෙච්චර එකක් දෙන එක වැඩි වගේ මනසකට යන්න එපා. මේ අපේ රටේ පුරවැසියන්. ඒගොල්ලන්ට හොඳ ස්ථාවර නිවසක් හදාගෙන සුරක්ෂිත ජීවිතයක් ගත කරන්න ලබා දීම තමයි අපේ වගකීම. ඉතින් ඔබතුමාලා ගොඩාක් ප්‍රවේශම් වෙන්න ඕන, සැලකිලිමත් වෙන්න ඕන නේද? අපි දන්නවා ඔය ආධාර ඒ වගේ වන්දි මුදල් ලබා දෙනකොට විශාල ගැටලු මතුවෙච්ච ඉතිහාසයක් තියෙන නිසා උපරිම උත්සාහ කරමු සාධාරණව දෙන්න. කොතනකින් හරි අපි මේ පීල්ල පැන්නොත් අපිට ඒක සීමාවක් නැහැ කොතනද කෙලවර වෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒ නිසා අපි හරියට එමු කොතෙන්ද හිමිකම තියෙන්නේ කාටද? ඒ හිමිකම තියෙන දෙන්න තමයි අපි සැලසුම හදන්න ඕනකම තියෙන්නේ.
The United Nations Development Programme today published findings of a study titled Mapping the Initial Impact of Cyclone Ditwa in Sri Lanka, conducted in collaboration with Sri Lanka's Disaster Management Centre. The study estimates that 2.3 million people, more than half of them women, were affected by the severe floods brought on by the cyclone. The analysis provides a nationwide picture of the cyclone's impact, which is being termed as one of the worst flooding disasters to hit Sri Lanka in decades. The study notes that floodwaters from the cyclone inundated more than 1.1 million hectares, almost 20% of the country's land area, and caused significant damage to homes, infrastructure, and essential services. The analysis highlights that over half of the people in flooded areas were living in households already facing multiple vulnerabilities before the cyclone, including unstable income, high debt, and limited ability to cope with disasters. The section goes on to note that under these conditions, even moderate shocks can turn into long-lasting setbacks. Presenting a set of disaster-related statistics, the report notes that floodwaters reached nearly 720,000 buildings, about 1 in every 12 buildings in the country. Over 16,000 kilometers of roads, enough to circle the island's coastline more than 12 times, were exposed to flooding. Similarly, over 278 kilometers of railway tracks and 480 bridges were affected by floods. Commenting on the disaster, UNDP resident representative in Sri Lanka, Azusa Kubota, noted that Cyclone Ditwa struck regions already weakened by years of economic stress. The exposed population includes approximately 1.2 million women, 522,000 children and 263,000 elderly people, with over 60% of all exposed people living in just 2 districts, Colombo and Gampaha. Noting that many people affected by the disaster live in high-risk, disaster-prone areas, the UNDP highlights the need for a permanent solution. The analysis further notes that this concentration of exposure is placing high pressure on essential services. The report also notes that the cyclone triggered around 1,200 landslides, highlighting that such events can isolate at-risk communities by disrupting access to essential services such as healthcare and slowing rescue operations. The report quotes Chief of Crisis Readiness Response and Recovery at the UNDP's Crisis Bureau, Derana, as saying that Cyclone Ditwa is a stark reminder of how fast compounding crisis can unfold. Concluding the analysis report, the UNDP called for scaled-up early recovery support to help communities get back on their feet. This includes restoring essential services, supporting affected households, particularly women, children and older persons, repairing key transport and service delivery infrastructure, and strengthening local systems for future climate resilience. UNDP resident representative in Sri Lanka, Azusa Kubota, notes that Sri Lanka cannot shoulder more debt to cover the costs of a rebuild from this massive natural disaster, when a slow but steady recovery is underway after one of the nation's worst economic crises. She further asserts that international partners must step up with affordable financing and innovative instruments that enable a rapid recovery and rebuilding with greater resilience without the country falling off the debt cliff.
30% discount on Apico Farm and Spring mattresses, available at Apico Supercenter and Apico Daily.
Musa Phoenix Natal Fiesta November 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
Minister K.D. Lalkantha criticized the National Building Research Organisation over what he called a non-committal approach in issuing landslide evacuation warnings for the entire Kandy district, as officials reported practical difficulties caused by the issuance of red landslide alerts across all divisional secretariat divisions in the district. The minister urged the NBRO to issue more specific warnings.
The Kandy District Coordination Committee convened this afternoon at the district secretariat, chaired by Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Lands and Irrigation K.D. Lalkantha.
We have prepared the evacuation notice. However, we need clear guidance in issuing it. The warning letter instructs evacuation starting today. Rains have already begun and officials are asking me for information. As the divisional secretary, I am unable to provide answers. The police are also struggling. This is a major issue. We now need to evacuate entire villages. This could increase the number of safety centers from 50 to 150, which will raise additional challenges, including food supply and other logistics.
The red warning is not issued for the first time today. Landslide warnings have been issued since the 27th. After our officials investigated these areas, we identified about 15,000 families in high-risk zones, including approximately 2,000 in Kandy. This is the number of families we are recommending for evacuation. However, this does not mean that other areas are not prone to landslides. We have only investigated the areas we were requested to examine. There may be other high-risk locations that have not been assessed. There is no technique in the world to determine exactly which houses will be damaged in such cases. How can we identify these high-risk areas? No one here is able to answer the questions from the divisional secretariats. Only NBRO officials can provide guidance. Please give us specific locations.
ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම් කොට්ටාසවල හඳුනාගත් කියන්නේ ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම්වරු රික්වෙස්ට් කරලා අපි ගිහිල්ලා බලලා වාර්තා දීලා තියෙන ප්‍රදේශය.
එහෙම කිව්වනම් ඊට වඩා හොඳයිනේ.
ඒක අපි DMC එකත් එක්ක කතා කරලා ඒ විදිහට වෙනස් කරන්න.
මෙහෙම කරමු. ඔබතුමයි මෙතුමයි මේක ඉවර වෙලා පොඩ්ඩක් හම්බෙලා අපිට ඉන්න පුළුවන් වෙන විදිහට ලියුම හදලා දෙන්න.
රයිට්.
අද නාය යනවා කියලා අපේ පළාතෙලම ඔක්කොම කඳුළු අපි කොහෙට ගෙනියනවද
කියලා. ඊ ආපු එක නේද? ඒකට අනුව ගත්තොත් මුළු නුවරම කොහේ හරි යන්න ඕන.
According to that letter, the entire Kandy district must evacuate. That letter was sent by NBRO to save themselves. All divisional secretariats were named in that letter. We do not need that. We want the letter to specify locations that are in danger. If all areas are mentioned, people may feel the entire district is at risk, which is impractical.
මහනුවරක් නෑ.
Minister for the Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs, Dr. Hiniduwa Sunil Senevi, announces that the government is providing a basic relief package of 25,000 rupees to each place of worship affected in the wake of Cyclone Ditwa. Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of Motor Traffic issued directives to citizens who have lost documentation issued by the department amid the disaster situation.
A media briefing was convened yesterday to clarify issues pertaining to the allocation of funds to places of worship damaged post-Ditwa.
සියලුම ආගමික ස්ථානවලට රජය තීරණය කරලා තිබෙනවා මූලික ආධාර මුදලක් හැටියට එක ස්ථානයකට රුපියල් 25000 ගානේ මුදලක් වෙන් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Kamal Amarasinghe convened a media briefing to inform the public on measures in the event of lost or destroyed documentation. Some people's vehicles have been damaged, while some people's documents have been either lost or destroyed in floods. In such cases, inform the respective Gramaladari officer and officer in charge of the local police station. File a complaint with the police. All pertinent information can be obtained by contacting 070 71 8866.
The Ministry of Education announced today that all schools in 6 provinces will reopen on the 16th of December. Meanwhile, examinations for the remaining subjects of the postponed advanced level examination are scheduled to take place from the 12th to the 20th of January next year.
අපි මේ මොහොතේදී මේ සියලු තත්ත්වය පිළිබඳව සමාලෝචනය කිරීමෙන් පස්සේ
Following an assessment of the current situation in the country, the Ministry of Education announces that schools will reopen on the 16th of December. All schools in the western, southern, northern, eastern, Sabaragamu and north central provinces will resume academic activities, which will continue until the 22nd of December. After the Christmas holidays, classes will resume on the 29th, 30th and 31st of December, marking the conclusion of the third term of 2025. The 2026 school year will begin on the 5th of January, with academic activities continuing normally during the first week. Schools will then close from the 12th to the 20th of January for the examinations for the remaining subjects in the 2025 GCE Advanced Level Examination, after which classes will resume on the 21st of January and continue until the 13th of February. As the 2025 GCE Ordinary Level Examinations are scheduled from the 14th of February to the 2nd of March, schools will remain closed during this period. The second phase of the first term of 2026 will run from the 3rd of March to the 10th of April. To support the well-being of students, the ministry has decided not to hold term tests for grades 6 to 10, while mock exams may be conducted for grade 11 students. Recognizing that many children are still residing in safety centers due to the recent disaster, the ministry has instructed authorities to allow affected students to attend the nearest schools to continue their studies. Necessary instructions in this regard have been issued to relevant authorities. Additionally, a relaxed policy on school uniforms has been recommended, allowing students to temporarily attend school without uniforms.
දරුවන් පාසල් නිල ඇඳුම ඇඳීම අත්‍යවශ්‍ය වන්නේ නැහැ මේ කෙටි කාලයක් සඳහා.
With that is a look at views shared in the political arena on the disaster situation.
Many have worked tirelessly to protect lives and safeguard property during the recent disaster. I extend my sincere gratitude and respect to all those involved in such efforts. We now face yet another challenge. The government remains fully committed to restoring all lost belongings and wealth of affected citizens within the next 2 years. Government MPs have decided to pin the responsibility of all restoration work on the President. There is a lack of coordination to restore people's livelihoods and relevant ministers are not acting responsibly. At a critical time, in the wake of a major disaster, it is essential for the government to intervene with greater accountability and effectiveness. The governments must take urgent action to restore public livelihoods by clearing the accumulated garbage once floodwaters recede and providing initial compensation to affected families. For example, in the Kolonnava electorate, garbage bags are scattered along every street, highlighting the lack of a comprehensive government mechanism to manage this issue. Around 200,000 individuals from 50,000 families in Kolonnava continue to be affected by the disaster. Those who have never contributed by resolving these issues may choose to criticize the government. However, once the situation stabilizes over the next 2 weeks, the public will understand the baselessness of such allegations.
I see no difference between the current disaster and the Easter Sunday tragedy, as this government too has failed to execute its duties and responsibilities. They were warned in advance. The government can no longer shift blame onto officials or authorities. Had proper preventive measures been followed, many lives could have been saved, even though property damage may have been unavoidable.
There's a little value of blame in the government at this stage. It is true that the government has made several mistakes. What is essential now is for the government to work together with the opposition and implement a comprehensive program to resolve the situation. Who was responsible for dismantling the Ministry of Disaster Management? This is a question the SLPP must answer. Former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa should be held accountable. All units of the ministry were placed under the Ministry of Defence, leaving the country without a dedicated Ministry of Disaster Preparedness. The National Committee on Disaster Management was not convened for 7 years. It met only after the incumbent government took office, yet even then no decisions were made.
Welcome back to First at 9. Now taking you to more local news. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa requests Russian assistance in providing relief to the people affected by Cyclone Ditwa. The opposition leader conveyed this request to the Russian ambassador to Sri Lanka today.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa met Russian ambassador to Sri Lanka, Levan Zagarian, at the opposition leader's office this morning. During the meeting, the opposition leader briefed the ambassador on challenges faced by people affected by the disaster caused by Cyclone Ditwa. He also requested Russian assistance to help rebuild the lives of affected communities, restore damaged railways and road networks, and reconstruct other critical infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Bandaranaike Memorial National Foundation, chaired by former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, made a financial donation of 250 million rupees to the government to aid in the country's recovery. The board of directors, led by the former president, presented the cheque to Prime Minister Dr. Harni Amarasuriya yesterday. Additionally, dry rations and other relief items provided by the Indian government were distributed today in the Kochikade area of Negombo with the participation of Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha. INS Gharial, carrying another consignment of aid for disaster-affected people under India's Operation Sagar Bandhu, arrived at the port of Trincomalee last afternoon. Similarly, an aircraft carrying aid from India arrived in Sri Lanka this afternoon, carrying a 61 metric ton, 110-foot-long Bailey Iron Bridge and a consignment of medicines weighing 600 kilograms. Meanwhile, 2 Indian Air Force Mi-17 helicopters deployed on rescue operations were returned to India for essential maintenance. A replacement Mi-17 has arrived at the Sri Lanka Air Force Base in Katunayaka. Meanwhile, the 8th aid flight from the United Arab Emirates arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport this afternoon. The United Nations has also allocated $4.5 million from its Central Emergency Fund to assist Sri Lankans affected by the disaster.
The Derana Dialogue Relief Operation for those affected by adverse weather continues for the 12th consecutive day today. The Sri Dharmapala Temple in Nellua and the Vijayarama Temple in Lelwala joined the Derana initiative today, donating essential supplies for disaster-affected families in Pussalawa, Helboda, Ramboda, Katukitula and Tavalanthana. Meanwhile, the Paliagoda Manning Market community handed over a large stock of dry rations and other essential supplies to the Derana relief effort, which were collected at the market premises in recent days. The Derana team is working tirelessly to ensure that all contributions are promptly delivered to those in need. Welcome back. Now taking you to business news, the Colombo Post regained positive momentum today with price gains by counters such as Colombo Dockyard, Selinco Holdings and Commercial Bank. The benchmark SPI gained 2.04% to close at 22,034.32, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 increased by 1.31% to end the day at 6,004.11. Market turnover was 3.8 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, offloading shares worth 149 million rupees. With that, here's a look at today's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Stay safe and have a great night.